If you think you've been loving her right this whole time, I need you to stop and really hear me out, because what I'm about to share with you could be the most important thing you've ever learned about the woman you love. Why does she go quiet? Why does she look away every single time? Why does your hand reach for her and nothing comes back? I'm going to tell you exactly why. And it's not because she doesn't love you. It's not because she's lost interest. It's because nobody, not a doctor, not a teacher, not anybody, ever taught you where and how to actually touch her. My name is Dr. Lily Harper. I'm a sexual health and relationship physician based out of Boston, Massachusetts. And I've been doing this work for over 15 years. My practice focuses specifically on intimacy and relational health for older adults, couples in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. I've sat across from hundreds of men just like you. Good men, loving men, men who genuinely wanted to make their wives feel good and had absolutely no idea they were doing it wrong. And before you think this is just some clinical talk, let me tell you something personal. My own parents stopped being physically close in their late 60s. My dad never said a word about it. My mom never said a word about it. But I could see it. The distance, the quiet, the way they stopped reaching for each other. That's part of why I do this work. Because I know what it costs a couple when this part of their life goes dark. And I know it doesn't have to. So if you're a man watching this right now, I need you to stay with me all the way to the end. This isn't about pleasure for its own sake. This is medicine. This is science. And I promise you, even if you're in your 70s, even if it's been years since she really responded to your touch, the switch still exists. It just needs to be found the right way. Let me start with the biggest mistake I see men make. And honestly, it's not your fault. Almost every man I've ever worked with comes in believing the same thing, that the center of a woman's pleasure is the clitoris, and that stimulating it directly, licking it, sucking it, focusing all your attention right there is the ultimate act of intimacy. I get it. That's what movies show. That's what the internet says. That's what guys have been told forever. But here's the truth. That belief, as well-meaning as it is hurting her. The clitoris is incredibly delicate. When it's exposed and suddenly stimulated directly, especially with the tip of the tongue, especially with pressure or speed, the female body doesn't register pleasure. It registers threat. It triggers a defensive response. Ticklish, painful, overwhelming. She wants to say stop, but she won't because she doesn't want to hurt you. She loves you too much to tell you the truth, so she just goes quiet, closes her eyes, waits for it to be over. I hear this over and over in my office. Women will say, "My husband is a kind man, but when he touches me, I just shut down. I want to feel good. I really do. But the moment he reaches for me, I tense up, and it just gets worse from there." That is not rejection. That is a woman who is longing to be understood. So why do so many men get this wrong? Because nobody taught them right. Not in school, not at home, not anywhere. The stuff on TV is performance. The stuff online is performance. None of it reflects how real women, especially women over 50, 60, 70, actually respond. The information most men are working from doesn't match the body they're actually with. But here's what I want you to understand. Pleasure isn't a point. It's a flow. It's a preparation. The female body doesn't respond to where you touch nearly as much as it responds to how, when, and in what order. That's the whole game. And once you understand that, everything changes. Now let me explain what's actually happening in the body and where the real switch is located. Because most men have been looking in the wrong place entirely. I ran an informal survey across my patient pool over the years. Women between 40 and 75, over 130 respondents. I asked them a simple question. Where do you actually feel the most pleasure during oral intimacy? 71% said it was not the center of the clitoris. It was the surrounding tissue, the soft connective area at the base and sides, the inner folds, the region just below and around it. And 62% said that direct stimulation with the tip of the tongue actually caused pain or discomfort. Let me say that again. 62% of the women in long-term relationships were experiencing pain and never saying a word about it. The anatomy matters here. What most men think of as the spot is just the tip of a much larger structure. The clitoral body extends inward, branches outward, and is surrounded by connective tissue rich with deep nerve endings, not surface nerve endings. These deeper nerves respond to something very different. They don't want sharp, fast, direct pressure. They want warmth, consistent, gentle pressure, a calm, steady rhythm. When those conditions are met, the pelvic muscles begin to soften. The whole body starts to shift into what I call a receiving mode. That's the switch. That's what you're looking for. Pleasure isn't triggered by stimulation. It's invited when the right conditions are created. And for women in their postmenopausal years, this is even more true. Hormonal changes mean the tissue is thinner, more sensitive, more easily overwhelmed. What worked at 35 can genuinely cause discomfort at 65. This isn't about desire. Her desire may be completely intact. It's about the body needing a different kind of touch, a gentler approach, more time, more patience. I had a patient, a man in his early 70s, who came to see me almost in tears. He said, "Dr. Harper, I've been going down on my wife for years. Every time she just lies there, eyes closed, barely makes a sound. I thought I was doing something loving. Did I hurt her?" And I said to him, "You didn't hurt her on purpose. You just never had the right information." And that's what we're going to fix today. So let me walk you through exactly how this works, because this is about sequence. This is about order, and getting the order right is everything. The female body is like a staircase. You don't jump to the top. You go one step at a time, and you don't rush the climb. If you skip steps, if you go straight to the most sensitive areas without preparing the body first, you're not going to trigger pleasure. You're going to trigger the alarm system. Muscles contract, nerves shut down, she walls off, and all that love you were trying to give goes nowhere. So, here's step one, the outer area. Before you go anywhere near the most sensitive tissue, you start at the outermost edge. This is less sensitive, more tolerant of warmth and contact. And your only job here, your only goal, is to communicate safety, not pleasure. Safety. You're telling her body, through touch, that this is okay, that she's held, that she doesn't need to brace herself. Use your lips here, not your tongue. Soft, closed contact. No suction, no speed. Imagine how you'd touch the side of her cheek if she was having a hard day, and you just wanted her to know you were there. That's the energy. Take 3 to 5 minutes here. That might feel like forever. But this is where everything begins. Because as you stay there, patient, warm, unhurried, something starts to shift. Her breathing changes. It starts shallow and tight, and then gradually it deepens. That's not nothing. That is her nervous system deciding it's safe to open. Don't miss that signal. Step 2, the inner folds. Now gently you move to the area between the inner and outer lips. This region is dense with nerve endings. It's highly sensitive, which means the quality of your touch matters enormously. Do not use the tip of your tongue here. Use the flat, broad surface. Think of it like a paintbrush, not a pen. Wide, warm, soft. No pressure, no speed, just slow, warm contact. Warm. Temperature matters more than most men realize. A cold tongue creates tension. Make sure your mouth is warm before you make contact. And moisture matters too. Not too dry, not too wet. A balanced, natural level of warmth and moisture is what allows sensation to build without friction. Give this stage real time. When you get it right, you'll start to notice small things. Her hips might rise slightly. Her thigh might twitch. Her breathing deepens further. These are not just reactions. These are her body saying, "Yes, keep going," exactly like that. This is the moment your touch has truly landed. And this is also the moment when most men make the critical mistake. They get excited and speed up. Don't. I cannot say this strongly enough. Rushing at this point doesn't accelerate pleasure. It dismantles everything you've built. Her body isn't afraid of intensity. It's afraid of carelessness. The moment you go faster or harder, she interprets it as you prioritizing your excitement over her experience. And she closes back off. Stay slow, stay present, stay curious about her, not about the outcome. Now, step 3, and this is where it gets really interesting. Breath and temperature. These are your most powerful tools at this stage, and almost no one talks about them. Your breathing has a direct physiological effect on her body. When your exhale is warm and steady and calm, it touches her skin, and her nervous system responds to it. It's not just air, it's information. It's saying, "I'm not nervous, I'm not in a hurry, I'm right here with you." The rhythm I recommend is a 2-to-1 ratio. Inhale for 2 seconds, exhale slowly for 1. Keep that going. Let your breath become part of the touch, not just your tongue or your lips, but the warm air that moves between you. The ideal temperature is close to body heat, just slightly above, around 98 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Think of it like gentle warmth, not heat. A soft, humid warmth that wraps around the most sensitive tissue without overwhelming it. When you get this right, the physical responses become unmistakable. You may feel the muscles around the pelvis begin to contract subtly, small involuntary pulses. Her toes may curl, her fingers may grip the sheets. She may make small sounds, barely audible, that aren't words but are absolutely communication. These are not signs that she's getting close, in the way men usually think about it. These are signs that she's trusting you. Her nervous system has decided you're safe, and her body is beginning to open at a level that goes deeper than surface sensation. Now here's the technique that changes everything. The pause. I know it feels counterintuitive. When something is working, the instinct is to keep going, but the nervous system habituates. When it receives the same stimulus at the same intensity for too long, it starts to tune it out. The sensation dulls, her response weakens, and you find yourself working harder for less result. The pause resets all of that. After you've established a rhythm, after you feel her responding, stop completely. 3 to 5 seconds. Don't move. Don't pull away. Just be still. Let your breath remain. Let your warmth remain. But stop the motion entirely. What happens in those seconds is remarkable. Her nervous system, suddenly deprived of the stimulation it was receiving, recalibrates. It prepares. It anticipates. When you begin again, slowly, gently, without rushing back to where you were, the sensitivity is amplified. What felt like a 5 before the pause now feels like a 10. A woman I worked with described it this way. I thought I'd want him to just keep going, but when he stopped, that moment of waiting was almost unbearable. And then when he touched me again, I felt it in my whole body, not just there, everywhere. That reaction isn't purely physical. That's trust. That's her body understanding that you are paying attention, that you are reading her, that she doesn't have to perform or pretend or manage you. She can just be there. Now, the left-right rhythm. This is the final layer, and it speaks directly to how the nervous system processes repeated stimulation. When the same movement is applied in the same direction at the same pressure over and over, the nerves stop firing as strongly. The signal weakens. This is basic neurological habituation. The same reason you stop noticing the feeling of your clothes after you put them on in the morning. The way around this is variation. Alternate sides. Move to the left of center for 2 seconds. Flat tongue, gentle, warm. Pause 1 second. Move to the right for 2 seconds. Alternate this 3 to 5 times with a 1 second space between each. What this does is create gentle unpredictability. Her nervous system can't settle into a pattern. It stays alert. It keeps processing every touch as new information. People don't realize how powerfully the body responds to gentle surprise, not shock, but soft, loving unpredictability. Watch everything. Her breathing, the way her hips move, whether her thighs tighten or soften, whether her hands grip or release. All of that is communication. She is talking to you the whole time, just not in words. And when you learn to listen to that language, you stop needing to guess. You stop performing, you start actually connecting. After 5 or so of these alternating cycles, apply the pause again. Stop completely. Stay warm. Stay still. Let her feel the absence. And when you return, slow, gradual from the side, her body will respond with a depth and a fullness that most men have never experienced from a partner. Not because they weren't capable of receiving it, but because no one ever taught them how to give it. Let me share 2 stories with you, because this is where the science becomes real life. A couple came to see me, both in their early 70s. He'd been a faithful, devoted husband for over 40 years. He told me he'd been going down on her regularly for decades, always with the intention of making her feel good. And for decades, she lay there silently, eyes closed, waiting. He said, "Dr. Harper, I thought I was doing something for her. Was I hurting her?" The sadness in his voice when he asked me that, I won't forget it. I told him, "You were doing everything you knew how to do, but what you knew wasn't complete, and that's not your failure. That's a gap in what you were ever given." Over the next few weeks, he applied what I showed him, just the things I've described here. And he came back and said, "She looked at me right in the eyes. For the first time in I don't know how long, she just looked at me and smiled." His wife was sitting next to him. She said, "His hands felt different that night, like they weren't trying to get somewhere. They were just with me. That's the whole thing right there. Not technique, not performance, presence. The second story is a gentleman in his early 80s, sharp as a tack, great sense of humor. He came in a little sheepish, said, "Doc, I figured at my age that part of life was just done. I wasn't even gonna bother." But his wife had suggested they come in, and he'd agreed. He told me a few weeks later, "I didn't expect anything to change, but I tried what you said. Slow, patient, paying attention, and I'll tell you, it's better now than it was when we were 50. He laughed when he said it, but he meant it. And then he said something that I think about all the time. "When I was young, I touched her the way I felt. Now I touch her the way she feels. That's the difference." That's the wisdom that only comes with age. You don't have to be 25 to have a beautiful physical relationship. You don't have to have the same body you had at 40. What you need is attention, patience, the willingness to learn something new about a person you may have been with for 30, 40, 50 years. Yes, bodies change, hormones change, energy changes. That's real, and there's no point pretending otherwise. But the capacity for deep physical and emotional connection doesn't have a shelf life. It grows if you tend to it. It deepens if you're willing to stay curious. What I want you to take from everything I've shared today isn't a checklist of techniques. It's a shift in how you see the whole experience. Intimacy isn't something you do to someone. It's something you create together. And for it to exist, there has to be trust, built slowly, maintained carefully, communicated through every single gesture and pause and breath. The men I've seen make the most profound changes in their relationships weren't the ones who learned the most moves. They were the ones who slowed down enough to actually pay attention, who stopped performing and started listening, who understood that what their partner needed most wasn't a skilled partner. It was a present one. It is never too late. I've seen couples in their 80s rediscover each other. I've seen men in their 70s say that intimacy now means more to them than it ever did when they were younger. Not despite their age, but because of it. Because they've lived enough life to understand what really matters. And what matters is not how impressive you are. It's how safe she feels with you. Tonight, if anything I've said today has stayed with you, I want you to do one small thing. Reach for her hand. That's all. Not with any agenda. Not as the beginning of something. Just reach for her hand and let her feel that you're there. You might be surprised what that one gesture communicates. You might be surprised how much she's been waiting for it. And if you feel comfortable doing so, I'd encourage you to watch this video together, because this conversation doesn't have to stay between you and your screen. The best outcome here is one where you both feel seen, both feel safe, and both understand that the life you're building together, at whatever age you're at, still has room to grow more tender, more honest, and more deeply connected than it's ever been. That's what I'm here for. That's what this work is all about. And I'm grateful you stayed with me all the way through.